Now this is peak right here. The romance genre. A place filled to the brim with loners like us, as in me and you specifically. It's a complete understatement to say that this season is absolutely stacked, with shows like My Dress Up Darling, Call of the Night, and Bunny Girl all inflicting a post-anime depression status effect on us simultaneously. Yet, out of all the sequels that came out this summer, the one that primarily caught my attention was an anime called The Fragrant Flower Blooms with Dignity. To provide a bit of context, the film revolves around our main character, Rintaro Tsumugi, who attends this shabby, filthy, and utterly repulsive school named Chidori that is notorious for its singular brain cell. Neighboring this fodder institution is the oh-so-elegant and prestigious Kikyo Private Academy, an all-girls school that is the complete antithesis of Chidori. Unsurprisingly, this dynamic causes conflict between the residents of each academy, with the girls at Kikyo viewing every single boy at Chidori as essentially a D1 basement-dwelling gooner. Like, imagine going about your business, only for your mere existence to warrant this look of absolute disgust. Me personally, I think that might just be my 13th reason, just saying. Anyways, this is pretty much the reason why Chidori students immediately skip from denial to anger in the grief gauntlet, projecting the same exact energy right back with the delicate side of copium. However, Rintaro was a slightly different story, since he already long jumped all the way to the acceptance stage a while ago. After all, he was always isolated in the past for his intimidating appearance, leading him to come to terms with the situation much sooner than everyone else. For reference, Bro could legit aura farm with his presence alone, scaring away level 1 bots and bystanders alike by just standing there menacingly. Deep down though, Rintaro was actually a kind person in a crappy place. A prime example would be the fact that Bro helps around at his family-owned cake shop alongside his mom. That's not delinquent type behavior, that's literally a man with priorities right there. Ironically, this is where he would first encounter our heroine, Kaoruko Waguri, who was actively scarfing down every pastry in that bakery like Yamada on a Tuesday morning, marking the beginning of a relationship that would render any preconceptions completely meaningless. Sounds like your average romance with a little twist, doesn't it? There's no supernatural element like an alien girlfriend coming out of nowhere. It's just simple. There's nothing necessarily wrong with that. However, that isn't the reason why I felt so deeply about Fragrant Flower, despite only having a few episodes. Of course, there are countless romances out there like Love is War and Horimiya that are like straight diabetes, but there was something about this show in particular that made it feel more real than the rest. It was only after I took a step back and thought about it for a bit that I was finally able to articulate the sensation in a single word: wholesomeness. It's the emotion invoked when you see the main couple living happily together. It's the feeling you get when one of them blushes. It's the chills you experience when they inevitably get closer together. That is what makes Fragrant Flower so special, as it maintains the atmosphere that most series can only reach at their pinnacle right from the beginning. There are 3 overarching elements that contribute to this wholesome environment, with the first being the concept of the natural encounter. Let's first establish examples of unnatural encounters. Exhibit A, in Dress Up Darling, Murray literally gets Detroit smashed into the corner of Gojo's desk. Exhibit B, in Tonikawa, Nasa is saved by Tsukasa, who happens to be the strongest person in that verse because she literally stopped Truck-kun from doing his job. And finally, Exhibit C, being an absolute nerd and rizzing at 5 guys. On the contrary, we have animes like Fragrant Flower, where Rintaro and Waguri literally meet in Rintaro's cake shop, a quick time event that could happen to practically anyone. Well, maybe not the whole family-owned bakery thing, but it's not uncommon to meet someone intriguing at a cafe or restaurant that you happen to work at. Another example would be Horimiya, as Miyamura encounters Hori more personally when her little brother Sota gets injured. This isn't even mentioning how they are literally classmates. In Love is War, Shirogane and Kaguya are rivals academically, so kind of similar to like the school dynamic in Horimiya, generating a mixed relationship between pride and admiration that ultimately brings them closer to one another. All these animes elucidate the difference between the 2 types of encounters, with the more natural ones obviously resonating on a deeper level. Moving along, the next factor to Fragrant Flower's wholesomeness would be Rintaro and Waguri's mutual reciprocation of their feelings. I think we're all familiar with the whole dense MC trope. We all know the one, the boring, black-haired protagonist with absolutely no personality or charm whatsoever, and yet they pull more girls than you've probably spoken to in your entire life. They would probably kiss the main heroine only to say no hetero before walking away like nothing happened. It goes both ways as well. You could even have down bad MCs groveling at the feet of the main girl, willingly being manipulated for the love of the game. Friend's girlfriend. That isn't the case for Fragrant Flower though. Rather, it's a two-way street of emotions. Of course, I know they aren't exactly together yet as of the current episode, but you get the love at first sight sort of reaction when you see Rintaro and Waguri interact with one another for the first time. They feel nervous yet oddly comfortable. They have a sense of longing that they can't quite wrap their heads around. They make minor mistakes, but actually take the steps to make amends because they can't see themselves losing one another so early on. In other words, you're actively watching an authentic relationship blossom, even if the characters don't realize it yet. This then segues into my last point of relatability. Out of any factor in a romance, an anime's ability to resonate on a spiritual level with their audience is what solidifies it as a true masterpiece. You can interpret this as being in a similar position, observing how these characters go about an experience you share with them, or even the desire for that kind of bond yourself, a longing that you feel can only be satiated through the lives of those on your screen. Whatever it may be, the culmination of Rintaro, Waguri, their friends, and their environment all represent qualities of what it means to be human. And I think that is what plays the greatest role in why this show feels so comforting. Take Rintaro's cake shop business, for example. This is a place that he chooses to hide from everybody, including his closest friends, out of a sense of insecurity. Whether it be due to his past trauma or a feeling of vulnerability, it is ultimately a point of shame for him in some capacity. Thus, it is kind of poetic that Waguri encounters him there, as it becomes illustrative of the idea that love always finds you at your most vulnerable moments. On another note, the anime also abides by the philosophy that a true romance is one formed by unconsciously broken down barriers. After all, similar to how Rintaro subconsciously distanced himself from others due to his intimidating image, many people unwillingly choose to isolate themselves from intimacy in order to shield both themselves and other people from getting hurt. Hence, a true relationship typically forms when one meets another person who completely shatters their invisible obstructions, even if they aren't actively trying to. In this case, Waguri's lack of prejudice towards Rintaro despite him going to a shabby school like Chidori led him to slowly realize how nearsighted he actually was, with his constant assumptions about Waguri being rich or repulsed to him for his school, allowing him to finally realize that his acceptance of his situation had turned him into the person he despised the most. At last, he had found the person who understood him better than he understood himself, someone who could see him for who he was and not what others made him out to be. Finally, there is the polarized nature of Chidori and Kikyo. Remember how I previously mentioned that students from both academies loathed one another with an absolute passion? Well, while Rintaro didn't exactly possess the same level of hatred, he had grown accustomed to the status quo. Yet, lo and behold, the very person he had grown to care for was someone from the exact school he had been conditioned to hate. That's pretty ironic. And the same could be said from Waguri's perspective. In the end, both characters found each other in an environment that was against them, but despite that, their interactions continue to feel genuine and authentic, a connection that you can't help but smile at while watching. They blush while having a brief conversation on the phone, they seek out any opportunity to awkwardly see each other. They even view mundane tasks like studying, eating, and train rides as more vibrant than before, trying everything in their power to grasp the feelings of love that they don't yet understand. It's beautiful, powerful, and real in every single way, whether it be through the conflicts sprouted from one's care for another or the formation of bonds that go against the social norms. Each aspect, both the highs and the lows of this anime, represent how even the most fragrant of flowers can bloom in the most bland of fields. That's what makes this anime so wholesomely special.